Dustin Kirby with Foundational Facility Management Consulting here, and today I wanted to talk to you about life cycle replacement management. What that means is all of your assets have a life cycle. For example, your roof might have a 20-year life cycle, so from the time that it's installed, the average life cycle might be 20 years before it has to be replaced. Same with your HVAC system. Your condenser, your AC condenser might have a 15-year life cycle. So from the time it's manufactured or the time it's installed, you might have 15 years before it needs to be replaced. Now, not all assets fall or die, I should say, right at the end of their life cycle. Remember, the industry standards, and that's important to find someone that you can trust that can help you find those industry standards, but they're industry standards. They don't mean that some assets are going to outlive their expected life cycle. On the other hand, some are going to die before that. So what I always talk to other facility managers about with actually planning for your life cycle is know your assets. So each asset is different. You might have 2 AC condensers at your building. Maybe they're the same make and the same model, installed the same year. It does not mean that they're both going to last the exact same amount of time. Maybe one is slightly out in the sun a little bit more. Maybe one is actually trying to cool down a larger portion of your building. There's many different factors that can go into it, and they're not gonna last the same amount of time. But what's important for you is to know the maintenance history on all of your assets, because there's gonna come a time, let's say just that for argument's sake that we're talking about your condenser, and you had that installed, it's got a 15-year life cycle, 15 years down the road, you've got 2 of them. And if you're someone that's actually kept your maintenance history, let's say condenser number 1, man, that thing has been reliable. The whole time you've only had regular maintenance on that. But now at the 15th year, all of a sudden, you've put in $2,000 this year into that condenser. And you can tell, ooh man, I can hear it running and it's louder than it used to be. It doesn't seem to be performing the way it was. Let's say condenser 2. You've had a little bit more regular maintenance you've had to do to that. But you know what? It hasn't had extra maintenance this year as opposed to previous years. It seems like it's still running well. It's not louder. You're not having to do, like I said, you're not having to do that extra maintenance that you just had to do on the first one. So even though for the first 15 years, that first one has just not been a headache and been simpler for you, now all of a sudden it's costing you more money. The other one, number 2, seems like, hey, it's still rolling along. So now you're at the expected end of the life cycle for both of those assets. It's nice to be able to use your experience and your data together to make these decisions. So, okay, now I know I'm gonna have to replace these condensers. Each one is gonna cost me $15,000, let's say. And my budget is only going to afford me to do 1 next year. I'm going to really watch the rest of this year. If that first condenser, man, it was a good condenser for those 15 years or 14 years, and then the last year, it's really cost me more, and it sounds off, and my HVAC technician has said, you know what, we're going to now have to replace the coils pretty soon. How much more money do I want to keep putting into that? I'm only going to be able to replace 1. So do I want to have to put more money into number 1 when it sounds like it is really coming to the end of its life cycle? Or number 2, which I've had to do a little bit more maintenance throughout its life, but it really seems like it's working well right now. It has been consistent. It's not that, oh, it's had 10 great years with nothing. It's, hey, I've had to do regular maintenance throughout its life, but it's working well. For the most part, I'm going to watch this next year, and if the trend continues and that the number 1 is starting to fade, I'm going to replace that one. In an ideal world, your budget would allow you to replace both of those condensers now because they're at the end of their life cycle. But most of the time, you're not going to be able to do that. And strategically, you most likely have some other assets that are coming near the end of the life cycle. So if that condenser still, if either of them or both of them are still performing well, I might even save that budget and roll it to next year. Or maybe there's another asset, such as part of my roof, that needs to be replaced. So I really enjoy that part of facility management. It's really crunching numbers and the data. I love to see, okay, this is when I'm supposed to have to replace this asset, but oh good, I get to look at the life history of this asset. I can see the maintenance history, what it's cost me throughout, and especially what I really pay attention to is when that asset is towards the end of its life cycle, am I having to start pouring in more money? A lot more than I had before. Chances are, if I am, it's going to save me money in the long run to put my budget towards replacing that asset. I'm going to get newer equipment that's more efficient, and I'm not going to have to pay a big chunk of money to just keep an old piece of machinery going. Instead, boom, I replace that one, and then when my budget allows, I replace the other one down the line. So, as I said, you need to know what assets you have. You need to know the make, the model, and the install date or the manufacturing date of that asset. You need to partner with someone, or maybe you know that yourself, to find the industry standards of the life cycles for each asset. And then you need to build out that schedule so that you can see in the upcoming years what asset is going to need to be replaced when. And if you work with a professional, they'll even be able to show you the expected cost. Maybe you bought that condenser 15 years ago. They might just build out, this was your cost with a 3% inflation year over year. This is going to be, your estimated cost to replace that asset. It at least gives you an estimation on what you should be saving to replace that and when. This really helps you tighten up your budget. It really helps you stay on point with your budget so that you don't have all these unexpected expenses. And this also helps you prevent a lot of those lost opportunities. So I love to always say, whenever you have emergency repairs, it's not just the money that it costs you, it's also look around for the lost opportunities. Hopefully these don't keep happening during service, or when you've got new people in the building, maybe for the first time, and they're experiencing, your bathroom shut down, or it's hot and your AC is not working, or it's raining and your roof is leaking on them. Obviously, we want to make a good first impression in everything that we do. And as churches, we want to be a welcoming facility and a welcoming group of people that people want to come back to. And you can still do that definitely by just being a welcoming congregation. But it is a first impression when someone walks in and your facility is in disrepair, or it's an uncomfortable temperature, whatever that might be. So by tracking your life cycle replacement, you can estimate the upcoming assets that are going to need to be replaced. It helps you budget, it helps you plan, and it helps you prevent some of those emergency situations. So with life cycle budget replacement, get started today. Make sure that you have a complete list of your assets. Make sure that you have the make, model, and manufacturer date or installation date. Make sure that you have the expected life cycle of each of those assets, and that you extrapolate those costs over the life of the asset so that you can see when each one is expected to need to be replaced. Make sure that you keep your maintenance history up to date so that you can keep that data in front of you. So as that asset gets near its life cycle, if it's requiring a cost that's half the cost of a brand new one and it's already past its life cycle, in most cases, I would always advise you to go ahead and replace that asset. So make sure that you work with someone that can help you build that out. And once you're started, this is something that you'll be able to keep up. Make sure that someone doesn't just build it out for you, but they explain how this works so that you can build out over the next 15 years. And then whoever follows you can continue this. So I hope that this was helpful. Go ahead and get started on your life cycle replacement planning today.